Morning, YouTube. It's been a few days. What can I say? I'm not as consistent as I say that I am, or as I like to think I am. Actually, I don't think I'm consistent at all, and I think I've said that from jump here, so I'm not going to apologize for the light hiatus. It was my son's birthday on Saturday. We had a party here. We hosted it. There were quite a few people. It took a lot of preparation and then a lot of cleanup, and we had a lot of guests and a lot of people, and there were a lot of things to do. And I just frankly could not find the time or really the sort of interest and energy to set this all up. And I don't really want this to be the watch Marcello stand and kick around his feet and look at his fingernails and wait for 15 minutes to pass vlog. So I skipped a few days, but I'm back, and it's Tuesday. How are we doing? How was my son's party? It was great. There was a little bit of, I guess, complication around it. I actually filmed a very long, detailed, sort of ranty vlog about all of the drama that I'm going to lightly touch on right now, but I've decided not to post it just because it wasn't super well organized, and I want to introduce you guys to the family drama in a way that is a little bit more structured and that has nice audio quality. I was filming in the car. I don't really have a portable microphone. It sounded like shit. I already deleted the videos, so there's no seeing them now. Anyway, the party went mostly well. The drama that I am alluding to is the fact that my mother and I have a bit of a fraught relationship. And I've decided, and what I decided when I was, making these other vlogs that I've deleted, is that I would very much like to share that in a sort of freeform, casual, but structured, like I said, way, and sort of present that just as a piece of my life and a story, because it is a very crazy story, my family's drama. So there's probably going to be a second series here that is very similar in format. The thumbnails are probably going to look the same, in which I sort of break down and tell the complete story of what makes my family unique. I know every family's got their drama. This will be ours. Anyway, without getting too much into that, I'll say that my mother and I have a pretty fraught relationship. We've both said a bunch of things to each other that we probably regret. I'd like to think that I've been a little bit more accountable for the things that I've said and the things that I've done in the past, and also most of the things that I did that I regret took place while I was a teenager. And some could argue that it is there's more of an obligation that the adult act like an adult in conflicts between teenagers and adults, but we're not going to get into that too much now. Anyway, my mom and I have found ourselves in a bit of a cycle where I tell her the behaviors and things that she says that I can't be around, and she says, yes, I hear you, I understand you, and then she promptly does or says something that indicates that she was not remotely attuned to what I was saying, and then I ask her to not do that in the future, and she obfuscates and makes a big scene and never ever takes accountability for the initial violation that's kicked off whatever the given thing is. So it's been difficult for me as an adult to spend a lot of time with her, especially since there's a lot of negativity and abuse that took place in my early adulthood that we've never really talked about, and that she's certainly never really been accountable for. Makes me hard. It doesn't make me hard. It makes it hard for me to be around her and trust that that's not going to resurface. And the fact of the matter is, these things have resurfaced in various negative ways at family gatherings in the past, and that's something I always want to avoid. Anyway, all of this is to say that the drama was not around whether I wanted to invite my mom to the party or not, but whether I wanted her to stay over the night of or the night prior to the party. And I pretty firmly didn't want her to. And I was talking to my therapist about this weeks ago, because my therapist asked if I was going to invite her at all. And I said that I wanted to, because I'm trying to take actions that are not in line with the current state of things, but are more broadly aligned with my values and the goal of what I want in the future. And that is to say that when it comes to a relationship with my mom, right, I'm not trying to make decisions on a case-by-case basis, depending on what I think will get me closer to a given immediate desire, her not coming or coming to something, or her behaving in the way I want her to behave. I've sort of needed to give up on that, but rather I want to make decisions that impact our relationship that will be more aligned with my values and get me closer to what I actually want, realistically. Because what I want is a mother who loves me and understands me and is compassionate and accountable for harm that she's done, and that's just never going to happen. My mom is not really super well mentally, and I've needed to come to terms with that. And so instead of that, I think the actions that I want to take, I want them to be more oriented towards the goal of me being in a place where I am accepting of who my mother is, accepting of the way that she chooses to behave sometimes, but it doesn't impact me. Now, the fact of the matter is that it does impact me right now. So where does that lead me? Where does that leave me? When I'm thinking about whether or not I want her to come to something like my son's birthday party, the value that I want to live by is that, like, I am forgiving and I am empathetic and I don't take things super personally and I am accepting. So in line with that, the answer is, like, you know, if I don't invite my mother to family events, like, that's not really accepting and that's not really forgiving. And that also doesn't really align with how I want to be. If I want to be like this stoic person who, you know, just jumps over obstacles and for whom like external stressors just kind of roll over me, then blocking myself from seeing those externalities is not in line with that. Saying you're not coming to this because you trigger me too much isn't really getting me any closer towards dealing with feeling that way, feeling triggered if you want, but not reacting to it or not letting it impact me as much as I have in the past. Now, having said that, so I made the decision to invite my mom to the party. She wants to stay over the night of the party. Unfortunately, my aunt, whom my mom does not remotely get along with for reasons that I'm going to be a little subjective, but also I think objectively, my mom has been extremely unfair to and abusive towards my aunt, whom I love dearly and who, you know, in the times when my mom has kicked me out of the house or has cut off support to me or has refused to let me see my siblings for various reasons throughout our long and storied history, my aunt has always been an emotional support, a physical support, providing housing for me, and a financial support, if only in that she has fed me when my mom has been content to sort of let me fend for myself and I didn't have many resources. So I love her, and if she's staying over the night of the party, well, then I don't really want my mother to, because my mother tends to pick fights with this woman and make her uncomfortable. And then there's also my wife to reckon with. My wife isn't the hugest fan of my mom for a lot of reasons, but largely because my mother's never put any like sincere effort into getting to know my wife on any substantial level. It's just kind of the way that my mom is. And also because my mom has not put any effort into seeing my son over the last year. So my wife's got a little bit of a feather in her cap or a bee in her bonnet or whatever the expression is about that. So when I told my mother that I didn't want her to stay over on the night of the party, she then asked if she could stay over the night before. And a couple of my siblings were coming. I have 3 younger siblings. We all have we're pretty close to one another. We really enjoy hanging out with each other. 2 of them were coming over the night before and we were going to go out to dinner. And if my mom came, it would just, first of all, it would push the number a little bit too high. Like, we were going to go to a restaurant and like, it would change the venue that we wanted to go to. And we were really set on going to this one place. And it would also just change the texture and the feel of the entire evening, because when I hang out with my siblings, it is very much one thing. And when my mom is incorporated into the mix, I'm not the only one who has a fraught relationship with her. They all do in their own like unique ways. And my mom has not been great to any of my siblings. And so there's a lot of unspoken shit that just hangs in the air when she's there. And none of us really feel super comfortable just being ourselves. And we don't have as good of a time as we would otherwise. So I felt pretty strongly that, like, in spite of the fact that, yes, I want to be in a place where I am not affected by the way that my mom chooses to act and by her refusal to do what I perceive is like very basic in relationships, like treat me with respect and treat me as an autonomous human being. In spite of that, I don't want to compromise my idea for what I think that, like, what I want for my son's first birthday, which was to celebrate with my wife first and foremost, because she's the one with whom I've been doing all this for the last year, and to see my siblings and hang out with them, because I never really do. And they've been seeing my son all the time. They have visited a number of times for all of them. So I wound up telling my mom that it just wasn't possible. And To her credit, she did not really flip out about this, at least not to me directly, but I think that she knows that that won't really get her anywhere at this point. I haven't really been reacting in the way that she wants to her like various outbursts that she has that are a part of our dynamic. Although I am certain that this has fortified or validated an idea that she has about the type of person I am, and an idea that I think is false, and that bothers me. But I need to come to terms with the fact that she's going to think what she thinks, and that that'll be okay. Ultimately, we told her no. She did show up anyway. She managed to figure it out logistically. I guess she lives kind of far from here. She doesn't have a car, so it's difficult for her to come and just spend the day. My brother wound up giving her a ride back to her place on his way home, which was super clutch of him, because if she hadn't come, it would have been more of a thing. And it would have made me more sad, because I'm not necessarily trying to deprive my son of a relationship with his maternal grandmother, but at the same time, I felt like I was stuck making a kind of difficult choice between compromising my own personal sort of like boundaries and desires, as well as what I knew that my wife wanted and what I knew would make my siblings happier. And compromising my son's relationship with his grandmother. But the fact of the matter is, she has had an entire year to put some type of effort forth to come and see her grandson, and she's failed to do that completely. Now, I'm not trying to be the sort of like moral police or the parent figure punishing her for her actions. So you haven't tried to see my son, so now you can't see him. That's not really what I'm trying to do at all here. This has been a little rambly. I guess that's the point of the vlog. But the point is just, it is difficult navigating parental relationships like that, especially when your sole remaining parent, my father committed suicide when I was 17. It's kind of like a big part of the whole family story. It's really difficult when that's your sole remaining parent, and your sole remaining parent is just not mentally well. And that's the kindest way that I know how to put it. My mom is extremely troubled, and she can be extremely self-destructive. And when she gets angry or upset, it is as if she loses all ability to reason and to interact interpersonally with people without being cruel to them. Now, all that aside, the party was great. It was a really good time. My in-laws were there, and I absolutely adore my in-laws. That's like a sort of life cheat code that I hadn't really considered. Like, I wasn't looking for good in-laws when I was looking for a partner necessarily, but I certainly got some. And I've been able to take for granted having good in-laws and not needing to worry about like conflict with my wife's family. My wife's family is excellent. They're extremely caring. They provide for us in so many different ways that are difficult to describe, but can also probably be described pretty simply. They are emotionally supportive, and they watch my son and take us to restaurants and just treat us like we're children in a good way, if that makes any sense. It's nice to be taken care of every once in a while, especially for me, like given the sort of lack of parental care that I felt throughout my childhood and adolescence and early adulthood and right up to now. Not that I'm necessarily entitled to any parental care. It is really nice having that type of relationship with my in-laws. They are so helpful and they care so much, and I appreciate it deeply. My mother-in-law made cake and cupcakes for my son, which she's like an incredible baker and has been getting very into sort of decorative party-themed baking recently. The cake and cupcakes were beautiful. Ugh. They were all tiger themed because my son was born in the year of the tiger, and I was kind of reluctant to pick any theme, so that was what we went with. And they were gorgeous, and it was so nice. My wife's aunts, so my like aunts-in-law, I guess, whom I adore so much, made and decorated cookies in like a melon theme because we call my son Melon. I'm not going to get into why. We got the food catered. It was really good. It was a great group that showed up. It was like 30 people, mostly family, but a few like local people, which was great. And a few of my personal, just like very close friends, a couple of my friends from the city who like, they're my age, right? And I'm in my early 30s, mid 30s, I guess, early to mid 30s. And these two guys are like these single city kids who live together. Neither of them are from New York, but they're very much living the like single New Yorker lifestyle. And every time I have a family thing, they come up. And there's never an expectation that other people in our age range and of our like greater social group will be there. They are perfectly content to come to these things and hang out with my family. And they're at a point now where they know like everyone in my family, and they know like some of Margot's friends, and they know Margot's family. They know my in-laws by name. Like, these guys are just such good friends to have. They went to Italy recently, and I was initially going to go with them, but I didn't because we wound up renovating my bathroom, which was very expensive, and also my wife and the baby, and it just wasn't going to happen this year. I went with them last year, and they brought me back some gifts, which was really nice of them. One of my friends, my friend Tim, I guess I can use their names, actually contacted me while they were in Italy to ask me if I wanted him to slow down with the social media posts because he didn't want to make me feel bad. Like, these guys are just, I said no. I said I was very much enjoying vicariously living through them. Tim and Mike are just such good friends. Tim especially, no shade to Mike, but like Tim and I have just been friends a little bit longer. They're just such good friends, and I appreciate so much that they have ingratiated themselves with my family to a point where like they independently get invites from my aunt to like some of our family functions sometimes, and it sounds like they're gonna go to one of them soon. So yeah, it was a really good weekend, and notwithstanding the stuff with my mom, which kind of left me with some more lingering feelings and questions, in which I'm going to get to here and in a greater sense at some point. In spite of all of that, it was a really great time with really great people, and I have left the weekend feeling definitely tired and beleaguered, and also like the house is a bit of a mess. I feel very behind on a lot of things, but I also feel very like content with the state of my life right now. And I think my wife feels the same way, and that's even more important, because if she's not happy, no one's happy. Anyway, thank you for watching.